The Crimson Tide hit the road yesterday afternoon for the first true road game of the season. Oxford, Mississippi will be the setting for a top 15 matchup in the SEC West. Are the Rebels for real, or will the Tide roll again? We'll break it all down right now, only on Crimson Tide Kickoff.
Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance.
Not to steal a line from Brent Musburger, but I guess we will. You're looking live at Oxford, Mississippi, the site of today's SEC road opener for the Crimson Tide. Currently ranked #1 in the coaches poll and 3rd in the Associated Press poll. Will they remain there after today? That is the question.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to the Bear Bryant Show, brought to you by Ice Cold Coca-Cola.
It was Goose Tree because having gone to Tennessee, and
it's a special show today because thanks to Ken Gaddy and the good folks here at the Bryant Museum, we're on the set of the famous Bear Bryant Show. Welcome in, everybody, to Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for joining us here on the big show. We'll be breaking down Alabama's first true road test of the year against those highly touted Ole Miss Rebels, who are ranked 11th in both polls. Here's a look at what's coming up on the program. We'll have live reports from Oxford from Lee Smith at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. That's coming up. First, in just a second, we will welcome former Tide fullback Martin Houston to the set. He'll help us break down this big game. And Milliseconds this week will take us inside Crimson Tide Productions. And later, we'll introduce you to the newest member of the WVUA Sports team. But as always, we start with our Bama headlines.
For the latest on the Crimson Tide, you don't need the newspaper. You need Bama headlines.
And first things first, how healthy is the Crimson Tide today? We'll get to Blake Sims in just a moment, but one of his wide receivers is a question mark. Senior DeAndrew White will be a game-time decision with a toe injury. Meanwhile, Eddie Jackson will play, but is expected to share reps at cornerback with Tony Brown. Jarrett Williams will be back at safety. That's good news. As for Blake Sims, here was Nick Saban following practice on Wednesday.
He's done really well. Hasn't had any issues or problems. You know, looks like his old self. I would not know that he ever was hurt, you know, based on the way he's practiced and the way he's played, and he hasn't had any discomfort at all after doing it, which I think is the real key to the drill.
We're only 4 days into October, but it's shaping up to be a wild weekend in college football and a wild month for that matter. Thursday night, second-ranked Oregon fell at home for the second straight year to Arizona. The Ducks will certainly have a chance to climb back into the playoff race as the season wears on, but the loss is good news for fans of the SEC, particularly the SEC West. And there are a lot of SEC fans congregated right now in the Magnolia State. Mississippi is the place to be, the home to 2 huge games today in the conference. 85 miles west of Oxford, Mississippi State is hosting Texas A&M, but we're focused, of course, on Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. That's where Lee Smith is standing by. Lee?
Welcome to Oxford, everyone. We are in the center of Ole Miss's campus over here at the Grove. Tons of fans, tons of things going on, and everybody's getting ready for this top 10 matchup. And everyone else, Nick Saban, he's already been prepared for this game because this is a place where he's actually had a lot of success going back 2011. Trent Richardson ran wild all over the Rebels, won that game. This year's a little different. Quarterback Bo Wallace is now a senior. He's shown to be a little inconsistent, but we'll see if he can pull it out today. And the defense, Ole Miss's defense is always consistent, especially this time of the year. They've got everything clicking, and Nick Saban says this is easily the Tide's toughest contest to date.
Best defensive team we've played, you know, all year. This is the best team we played all year, but their defense is especially quick, run well, good pressure team, you know, up front. They've got a ball-hawking secondary who has, you know, picked off a lot of passes. Some of it's created by the pressure in the scheme, and some of it the quality of players that they have. But, you know, Bo Wallace is third-year starter, has done a really, really good job of executing their offense, knows where he's going to go with the ball, what he's going to do with it. They do a really good job with their no-huddle pace of play.
And Saban says the toughest place to win a game is always on the road. Well, that's it. Reporting live from Oxford, I'm Lee Smith for Crimson Tide Kickoff. Back to you.
Thank you, Lee. Good to see you rocking the bow tie there in Oxford, Mississippi. We'll have to pan down with the camera the next time to see if you got the boat shoes to go with it. We'll be checking back with Lee here in just a few. Nice report. Now we'll go to the third member of our CTKO crew for today. We'll head up the road to Bryant-Denny Stadium and our WVUA studios inside the Digital Media Center. Peter Crank is there to give us a first look at our football forecast for Oxford today. Peter, it looks like a good one.
It is looking like a pretty great one across the area today. We saw a cold front make its way through the deep south yesterday, and the temperatures are beginning to cool off. If you look off to our east, they're still a little bit warmer there, but there's that cold front down along the Gulf Coast for us. That means we have great temperatures here and further to our north and west back toward Oxford as well. Temperatures even further to the north at Kansas City at 49, but here in Tuscaloosa, we're currently sitting at 61 degrees and similar conditions over in Oxford as well. We are seeing lots of sunshine this morning. Once that cold front has made its way through, we do have a few clouds off to our north, but those are going to continue to stay off to our north, and we're just going to see bright blue skies the rest of today for both Alabama as well as Mississippi. So great football weather for both of those top 15 matchups that are taking place this afternoon in the state of Mississippi. Across the area here in central Alabama, we are sitting in those upper 50s, lower 60s, and that'll be warming up about another 10-15 degrees will be where we'll top out today. We'll be about 68 degrees for our high today with a very sunny sky throughout much of the afternoon. Now, we do want to look at the forecast for Starkville, Mississippi State playing right now with Texas A&M. They'll be about 68 by the end of the game with temperatures right now in those upper 50s. And for us at Vaught Hemingway Stadium and the Rebels, we'll be about 67 degrees for kickoff right there at 2:30 this afternoon. Great time to play in the middle of the afternoon with lots of sunshine.
All right, thank you, Peter. This is indeed football weather, really for the first time this season, and everybody, I'm sure, is loving it. Much more coming up on Crimson Tide Kickoff. We're just getting started, in fact. Later, we'll hear some Ole Miss smack talk. Not always the best idea against the Tide. But up next, former Crimson Tide fullback Martin Houston from the '92 National Championship team will join us to help break down the game. How will Alabama attack this stingy Ole Miss defense? Kickoff is still 3 hours away, so the party is on in Oxford. They know how to do it there at the Grove. We're coming back, so don't go anywhere. Crimson Tide Kickoff presented by Alpha Insurance continues right after this timeout.
Hey guys, we're over here at the Grove where everything's happening. You can see there's tons of people and everything happening. There's music in the background. And here's my friend George. He is our tailgater of the week. And George, just kind of tell us, you know, what makes your tailgate better than all the rest.
Well, I mean, we got the people, we got the family, we got the food, we got the entertainment, we got everything going on. So hotty toddy to you. I mean, that's the way we do it here.
And I guess, what about this spread over here? What makes this spread the best in all the Grove?
It's not just quantity, it's quality as well. So, you know, we got a little bit of everything from, you know, homemade trays to store-bought trays to homemade foods, a lot of recipes, a lot of love went into what we have to eat tonight. So we're good, we're good.
And George is actually an Ole Miss graduate, and so when you think of Hotty Toddy and the Grove, what kind of memories do you get from that?
You know, I've loved Ole Miss since I was a little kid, since I was collecting programs from neighbors, you know, as a small child. And so I grew up with it. I grew up with the tradition. I've been doing this, you know, myself for the past 12 years. You know, we've had this tent. We've had about 5 groups of families here that have joined in, and we've got a great time. We have great memories, and it's something that my kids enjoy and cherish, and hopefully, you know, one day I'll pass it on to them. So it's just great memories. We have great memories every week.
So how neat is it that you not only have all these people, wonderful young ladies around, you've got a nice mix of guys and girls, and you've got this food, and you've got, you know, this nice little atmosphere. Would you say you guys are easily the best tailgate here?
There's a lot of great tailgates all around. I mean, every one is just, you know, it's comparing apples to oranges, you know. But yeah, we've got a great tailgate. A lot of people love ours, but you know, there's a lot of other great tailgates. Everybody does it good at Ole Miss. Everybody does it great.
All right, well, thank you, George. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, that wraps it up here from the Grove for our tailgating of the week segment. Back to you guys.
Good stuff, Lee. You know, we're going to get to Martin Houston here in just a second. Martin, they say that Ole Miss, they got a saying over there. I used to work in Mississippi. They say we may lose the game, we've never lost a party.
Well, that may be the only party that they get to have today.
Welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff, and we are excited to be on the set of the famous Bear Bryant show inside the Bryant Museum. Martin Houston, Crimson Tide fullback, 89 through 92, national champion in 92. I know you grew up in the 70s and early 80s watching the Bear Bryant show. Did you ever think you'd be sitting here doing a television program?
I'm always amazed at what I've had the opportunity to do, and this is just another one of those opportunities that we need to just sit back and go, wow, when it comes to the opportunities that I've really had. It's amazing.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
And again, our thanks to the Bryant Museum. I know many of you have been here, but if you have not, or even if you have, they changed the exhibits. Get to the Bryant Museum here on the campus of the University of Alabama. Check out this Bear Bryant set. Coach Bryant's old office is just to the left here in every detail, and so many good things to see. If you're an Alabama football fan, this is a bucket list item, that's for sure. All right, Martin, let's talk Alabama-Ole Miss. You've been in big games. In fact, I remember in 1992, Ole Miss came over here with a pretty good football team the year you won it all and hung around for a while. Remember, David Palmer had a couple nice catches and you pulled away there late. But even though Alabama has dominated the series throughout the years, Ole Miss has occasionally pulled the upset. And the folks over in Mississippi not only feel like this is a year that they can win, they expect to win.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of surprising to me that the talk around Ole Miss, yes, congratulations on being 4-0, but it takes more than a 4-0 record against Boise and Memphis and Vanderbilt to be at the level of where the Tide is. This Tide team, I think, is for real. I think Ole Miss, they have some talent. They've had a couple of good recruiting classes, but it takes more than just 4-0 and recruiting classes to be ready to play at this level. And I just don't think they're there yet. I think it's going to be competitive early, but I think the Tide will do much like they've done in previous years.
You know, I know this Ole Miss defense is stingy. I mean, the numbers bear it out through 4 games. But as you said, Boise, Memphis, those type of teams, not Alabama. All the hype surrounding this defense, I mean, I feel like the Tide's getting ready for the 85 Bears. But they are a good group. What have you seen from them defensively that makes them effective?
I think the fact that their front 4 can get pressure, Gary, on their own. They have the ability to harass the quarterback, which leaves you the ability to do a lot more things in coverage and can make teams a little bit more one-dimensional when it comes to the fact that they can't just line up and throw the ball all over the field because you have 7 defensive backs and linebackers on the field versus having to use them to get pressure on the quarterback.
Alabama's defense, we don't say this very often, but they've been overlooked a little bit going into this game. And Ole Miss has a veteran quarterback in Bo Wallace. He can make big plays for his team and for your team. He struggled against Alabama in 2 previous games, so I assume Coach Smart and Coach Saban will look at the formula that they've used against Ole Miss the previous 2 times against Wallace and try to do the same thing today.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to, Gary, this is kind of the matchup I'm really looking forward in this game because it's the first time, okay, we now have a rotation on the defensive line and we have experience against the hurry-up and we have our signal caller, Trey DePriest, back out there in Landon Collins. I'm looking forward to seeing this Alabama defense against this hurry-up offense and see what leaps and bounds they took in the offseason.
You know, since you've been here and done it, so to speak, I want to ask you about the situation surrounding this game. For Ole Miss, it's a game of the century. For Alabama, they play in several of those every year, used to it. I know the players are sequestered away a little bit, and it's going to be decided between the lines, but so much this week has been about Ole Miss, you know, their Grove and their tailgating and game day and them showing themselves to the country. Do you think, as a player, that can be a potential distraction, or do you think that they've been able to kind of, as an Ole Miss player, been able to kind of keep that away from them?
I think it's their first time as a university as a whole, I think it's first time as the players, as coaches. I really know that it's going to be a tough time for them to keep that from impacting them on the field. So I expect it to impact them early in the game, and then they'll settle down. But it definitely has impact the first time you go through this type of hype.
And as we said, not Alabama's first rodeo by any means. They've gone in and crushed dreams all over this conference. They may do it in Oxford, Mississippi again today. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Gary.
Hey,
appreciate it.
My pleasure. Coming up, more CTKO, including Hugh Freeze's thoughts on the Alabama offense.
And coming up on Crimson Tide Kickoff, we take you down the hall from WVUA to our neighbors at Crimson Tide Productions, how they put the shine on the Tide. That's coming up after the break.
Stay with us. CTKO live from Tuscaloosa and from Oxford, Mississippi. We'll be right back after this. It was a big play in a game full of them. Trent Richardson in 2011 against Ole Miss in Oxford. It was the last time the Tide traveled to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Due to a scheduling quirk, Ole Miss was in Tuscaloosa the last 2 years because of A&M and Missouri coming in. Thought it might be a Heisman moment for Trent. He didn't win the Heisman, but Alabama smashed the Rebels 52-7. In fact, it hasn't been a pretty serious history for Ole Miss. They've lost 10 in a row to the Crimson Tide. The last time that they did pick up a win in the series was 2003, and that was with Eli Manning throwing 3 touchdown passes in a 43-28 Rebel victory. You see the numbers there, but that includes a forfeit and several vacated victories. The numbers on the field are 51-8-2. So it's even more dominant than it looks right there. Alabama, the last 3 meetings have all been lopsided, and you see the total scores in those 3 games, 110-21. Well, you see, hear, and read their work every Saturday when you walk into Bryant-Denny Stadium, but you might not know who's behind those efforts. B.J. Milliken brings us this week's Milliseconds featuring the unsung heroes of an Alabama game day experience.
We're here today at Crimson Tide Productions. We're right down the hall from WVUA at the Digital Media Center. This is the group that makes Alabama really shine to the public with video, graphic design, and a lot of other things. We're going to take you inside and see how they do it. So let's go. Here with Justin Brandt, the director of Crimson Tide Productions. Justin, you guys have an integral part of the game day experience. How do you feel like you make this game day at Alabama something special for the fans?
Our group, Crimson Tide Productions, being the multimedia component of athletics, we try to, just to make the, the games interactive through various means and mediums of media and different things like that.
We're here in one of the many Bryant-Denny Stadium Nerve Centers with Lauren Ritter, the director of video production for Alabama. Lauren, a lot of, crowd control almost in here. You guys get the fans pumped up. You get them, realizing, hey, it's third down. There's that music. And all of that comes from here. Is that kind of a cool thing to know that Saturdays in Bryant-Denny, a lot of the flavor comes from right in this room?
Yeah, it's really great, especially, when we're rolling a video or something, you can hear the crowd just react to what you're doing. That's, it's really great to hear that because you don't get that when you're working in TV, like on the SEC Network stuff. But 102,000 people, you can hear them in here. It's pretty amazing.
One of the things that, I kind of enjoy just sitting watching is the playing of Dixieland Delight. Is there any way we can pump that in here?
I wish there were. We actually do that, all the music from upstairs in the press box. But we do have the tradition video for you.
Okay, we'll take that. The tradition video, let's take a look.
The same thing win. It always won.
All right, we've seen how they get you pumped up once you're in the stadium, but before you go in, you have to buy a program. And you see it's very nice, the artwork inside and on the cover. We're going to show you how that gets done. We're here with Aaron Hill, the Assistant Director of Graphic Design. Aaron, kind of take us through what you do when you're getting this thing ready, the program for game day.
Well, it's actually a lot more work than it looks. We first have to get the stories in, and then we lay it out cover to cover.
I know the players, a lot of times they kind of are vain about how they look, and you have to, make sure those guys look good, not only on the field, but in the program, right?
Absolutely. We don't do too much Photoshop work because they speak for themselves most of the time, but we do like to make them look tough when we can. The print programs are only for home games, but however, we do put out a program for away games digitally. And I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware of that.
There you go, 2014, everybody. A program on your phone. Here with Johnny Hanna. Johnny, you're part of the game day experience as well. You guys seem to be that extension of the football team. You're really part of the team and part of that game day experience.
Right. Well, you know, the team can do their part to get the crowd excited, and we have our part that we can do to help get the crowd excited. And Coach is always talking about how the crowd and the energy and the team feeds off of that, and it helps their play. So anything we can do, anything, you know, if we can put Scott Cochran on the video boards a couple more times to get the crowd screaming. Especially in a big game. It's a big third down, big fourth down. You know, the crowd knows what to do, but that extra boost always helps.
It's not about us. It's obviously about the football team, but we want to complement what they're doing to make it a better atmosphere for everybody.
Thanks, BJ. Now you know where all those great videos and music comes from on your game day when you're inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. We're inside the Bryant Museum, and I told you about Coach Bryant's office being just off to the left. There it is, duplicated down to a T. That's his old desk, his old couch, all his pictures, even the phone, the old punch button phones from the good days of landlines. You can see Coach Bryant's office among the many attractions right here at the Bryant Museum on the campus of the University of Alabama. Well, one thing the Alabama offense hasn't had to deal with thus far in 2014 is negative crowd noise. Artificial sound was piped in during several practices this week, but it's the Lane Kiffin-led attack that's been making the noise so far this year. After a record-setting start to 2014, a lot of people have taken notice of how impactful Kiffin has been with this offensive unit as the coordinator. With the Tide's abundance of playmakers, Ole Miss's Hugh Freeze knows his defense will have its hands full today.
Well, number one, they've always been very good offensively at what they do, and you know, I would say to you that they certainly have some different things now that add to that, and having the kids that they have, you know, make their schemes even better. So, you know, I know that Coach Saban is, you know, he's getting out of his kids what he wants to, and they have with Lane changed a bit offensively that is making them more difficult to defend.
Here's a look at some of those numbers going back to the Sugar Bowl. 5 straight games of more than 500 yards, obviously all 4 this year, 2 over 600. Amari Cooper leads the nation in receptions in terms of yards per game. Alabama's 4th nationally in total offense. Cooper, in fact, is a legitimate Heisman candidate. Believe it. Blake Sims making things happen on 3rd down in the passing game. Alabama's been efficient. They converted on 3rd down. That's how you keep drives alive, and that's how you put up those type of numbers. Hopefully it will continue today. Well, still more to come on Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by Alpha Insurance. Coming up, we'll check back in with Lee Smith over in Oxford, Mississippi. And next, it's time to put up or shut up for at least one Ole Miss defensive star. He may have put his foot in his mouth by talking some smack, or was it smack? Will he be able to back it up? We'll hear that next. We're coming back to Oxford, Mississippi as well. Stay with us. Crimson Tide Kickoff will roll on from Oxford and Tuscaloosa right after this timeout. Well, last year, maybe not quite to the level of this year, but still a lot of hype last year surrounding Ole Miss when they came into Bryant-Denny Stadium and left with a humbling 25-0 loss. Bo Wallace said before the game that he knew his offense would score points against Alabama. Well, the Rebels were held to a season-low 205 yards and got blanked, and the defense even scored points for Alabama with that safety, Jeffrey Pagan, sacking Wallace in the end zone. Well, they say that you live and learn. Well, apparently at least one Ole Miss Rebel did not learn a lesson from last season. As if Hugh Freeze didn't have enough to worry about when facing the Crimson Tide, senior defensive back Cody Pruitt, now he's a good player, was asked about the Tide after Ole Miss's win over Memphis this past Saturday. Here's what he had to say about this year's Alabama team.
We understand that we haven't played a team that's going to be as good as Bama. But you know, we don't really think Bama is as good as they have been, and we're better than we have been, and we're looking forward to getting to the game plan and getting this week started, and really nailing down all the tweaks and stuff that we're gonna have to put into to Bama.
Paxton Lynch.
Now, I don't think he was trying to talk smack. I think he was being honest. But Alabama may not be as good. We'll find out today. But make no mistake, Alabama players are aware of that comment, and it might provide them with a little extra motivation, although they said this week that they don't pay any attention to that stuff.
I mean, we really don't buy into it. We let the other team just talk all they want to, but we just go out there and practice and do what we have to do. And when the game comes, we just going to go out there and play.
I mean, that's fine. I don't really pay attention to none of that. I mean, they're going to say what they want to say, but I mean, at the end of the day, we still got to play on Saturday, so we'll find out.
Definitely was aware of the comment that was said. I was tagged into it on Twitter. I didn't hear about it until Twitter. And I mean, he's a great player. He's a great team. They have their expectations. We have ours. I mean, and we're gonna look to go into that game to play our best game, definitely.
That's Alabama's style under Nick Saban. Don't get caught up in a war of words. Save your talking for on the field by taking care of business. So they're saying all the right things in the media. That's what you expect from Alabama players. But the fans, well, that's a different story. They don't have to hold back, and they haven't. Alabama fans have talked plenty of smack this week for sure. They're tired of hearing about Ole Miss, and they want to go in there and take care of business. Speaking of Ole Miss, we check back in Oxford now, where Lee Smith is standing by with some fans.
Hey guys, I'm here with a couple of special fans. We've got Megan on my left and Madison on my right, of course, Alabama and Ole Miss fan. And guys, I just really I need you guys to help me out figure a problem. I need to figure out if Alabama fans are better or Ole Miss fans are better.
Ole Miss, for sure.
Okay, well, first question. You know, I've seen this as a pretty classy place, and the dress is second to none. So what do you have to say about the Grove being a little classier than the Quad?
We actually don't shop at Kmart here, so I think we dress a little classier.
Oh, okay, shots fired. What do you say?
Well, what I've noticed here at the Grove is that everyone has the same outfit on, like this one.
Okay, all right, there we go. It's getting a little heated, Okay, well, then my second question is, who plays football a little bit better?
Saban. Roll Tide.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy, Ole Miss.
Well, I think that was an easy answer. All right, and you know, I noticed a lot of people are rocking the bow ties like I actually am today, and a lot of people are rocking regular ties. I mean, is that just a staple of Oxford?
It's a tradition. It goes on here every game day, and it's going to continue.
Okay, and last question, who's going to win the game and why? What's the score going to be?
Alabama 38-10.
Ole Miss 40-10.
All right, well, obviously someone is going to be wrong today. Well, that wraps it up. Live in Oxford, I'm Lee Smith for WVUA Sports.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you, Lee. You're having entirely too much fun to be getting paid. That's not work over there, what you're doing. You're enjoying yourself. That's great. All right, still much more to come here on CTKO. Don't forget to interact with us on Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag CTKO. Ask us questions or send us comments. We'd love to hear from you. Next up, it's our player spotlight. This week, it's junior linebacker Denzel Duvall. He tells us the key ingredient to slowing down the Rebels offense today. And we'll introduce you to our newest team member. WVUA Sports has got a new person on board. You'll meet that person next, so stay with us. Welcome back to CTKO. There's a live look at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It sits quiet today, but it'll be rocking in a few weeks for Texas A&M. The Tide will return to Bryant-Denny for that game against the Aggies on October 18th. Next week, Alabama is at Arkansas, so they're on the road for 2 consecutive weekends. But wherever Alabama goes, everybody seems to follow, except for us. We're here in Tuscaloosa today. Welcome back to CTKO. We're joined now by the newest member of the WVUA Sports team, Jen Chapman. Jen, it's a pleasure to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Last night it was snowing in Wisconsin, and Alabama's cold front was 70 degrees, so yeah, I'll take it.
Everybody's wearing jackets here. You may have seen Jen last night at 6 o'clock. Her first assignment was to go live with American Christian football coach Chris Smelly prior to the ACA Gordo game. We expected a tight one, and Gordo kind of took care of business.
Yeah, right from the beginning, and they kind of just held on the whole game. So wasn't much of a contest, actually.
All right, let's talk about you. Give us your background. I know you come here from Wisconsin in the television business, but you're not from there originally. Just tell us a little bit more about Jen Chapman.
Yep. I grew up in Northern Virginia outside Washington, D.C., and I went to James Madison University for my undergrad work. And then I went to Central Michigan for grad school, and my first TV job was in Wisconsin. Great time out in Eau Claire. Absolutely love the people, and Packers, definitely Packers Village over there, and the Badgers. And somebody today told me the Big Ten is the Little Ten out here. So
who said that?
I've got a lot to learn about SEC, I think. So it was a great time in Wisconsin.
Who would have made a comment like that?
Maybe the guy sitting to the
Don't
right
look
of
at
me. And I
me.
said, that is not true for basketball.
That had to be B.J. Milliken. That's for sure. You know, we're glad to have you. That's for sure. Looking forward to working with you. And I know, you know, it's not prerequisite that you have to be an athlete to be a sportscaster, but you were a collegiate athlete.
Correct. I ran cross country and track at JMU, and I still actually compete. Next weekend I will be missing. Oh my goodness!
What's this? Hang on.
Because I'm going to be running the Chicago Marathon, and apparently this is a pre-game, pre-race. What is this?
Yeah, hang on. Look at not only was she an athlete, she's still an athlete. Going to run the marathon. You know, so you'll see her on air beginning in a couple of weeks because we're going to take off next weekend to go to Chicago and run a marathon.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, this is training food. All right, you're in the South now, you know, and one of the Southern traditions is barbecue, and one of the most famous barbecue establishments in the world. In fact, David Letterman spoke of Dreamland BBQ not that long ago on his show, and they're known for their ribs. They brought us some by this morning. Why did you bring any napkins?
I'll get you some.
Okay, because not only do we want you to.
This will be a first.
I want to make sure you're nourished for the marathon. Have yourself a rib there.
Rib, all right.
Just tear one off. Eat it right off the bone.
Just okay.
There you go. And I mean that'll make you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that'll make you give up marathoning if you don't want to. How about that?
That's good.
Something new for you, huh?
This could be my new pre-race ritual.
Okay.
Just have some ribs.
Well, we promise to get you back into training after you have a few ribs. Hey, looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. I am too. Thank you.
All right. A new member of the WVUA Sports team, Jen Chapman. All right. Now, here is a key member of the Crimson Tide defense, and he'll be looking to follow up a solid game against the Rebels last year with another big one today. Andrew Clare brings us this week's player feature, Denzel Duvall.
Junior linebacker Denzel Duvall is a critical piece of the Alabama defense. In last year's game versus Ole Miss, Duvall recorded 2 sacks during the Tide's 25-0 victory over the Rebels. Duvall says the mentality of the defense is to be aggressive each and every week.
We just want to continue to grow our identity and just, be that relentless defense. So, every Saturday we go out there, we try not to give up a touchdown, try not to give up no points.
The atmosphere in Vaught Hemingway Stadium on Saturday will be deafening. Duvall says the defense feeds off the energy of the crowd, even on the road.
We love going to environments that are pretty hostile, and it just makes everything sweeter and everything that we go out and play for better. So I'm looking forward to traveling there.
Duvall is part of a unit that is ranked 3rd in the country in total defense. He and the rest of the Tide defense will need to be on their toes as they face a dual threat in quarterback Bo Wallace.
We can have everybody covered, and it's 3rd and let's say 7, and he just take off right up the middle, boom, first down. So we have to rush smart, but we've been practicing on that, so we'll be ready.
Through 4 games this season, Duvall has 6 tackles. Alabama will look for him to continue his consistent play as the team gets deeper into conference play. For Crimson Tide Kickoff, I'm Andrew Clare.
And here are the career numbers for the junior from Louisiana. 53 career tackles, 23 solo, and a bunch of assists. He's got 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. All right, we're still just enjoying some ribs right here, aren't we?
They're great.
Yeah, and I'm not supposed to be eating and doing a television show. So we're both.
You can't have that in front of you and not eat it.
That's right. Although I will say this isn't my first time to eat on a show.
Oh, well. Is this the new ritual for the new person?
It may be.
I like it.
All right, next on CTKO, we'll go behind enemy lines for Ole Miss. What they're saying this week about their big matchup against the Tide. And they did it a year ago. Can Alabama's defense slow down Bo Wallace and the Rebels' offense on the fast track at Oxford? We'll break down the Alabama defense next. Crimson Tide Kickoff rolls on from Tuscaloosa and Oxford. More after the break. Enjoy. There is a look at the Grove, the famous Grove, one of the most well-known tailgating spots in the country. Just outside Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi. As you've seen, they tailgate a little differently at Ole Miss. Bow ties, boat shoes, prime rib, champagne, and a lot of Alabama fans over there enjoying it as well today. We're glad that you're enjoying Crimson Tide Kickoff with us. We're coming to you live from the Bryant Museum on the set of the Bear Bryant Show. It's an honor, certainly, to sit here in the behind the same set that Charlie Thornton and Coach Bryant used for years back when they were doing the television show, the Bear Bryant Show. Well, each week we try to give you the opponent's perspective on the game. Today it comes from WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi. A two-time contributor to the show, TJ Weary, takes us behind enemy lines.
Hello everyone, I'm TJ Weary from WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi for Behind Enemy Lines. Now there's no more looking ahead for Ole Miss. It's game day for the Rebels as they get ready to take on third-ranked Alabama in Oxford. The Clarion Ledger reports that 34 football and basketball prospects, including Malik Newman, will be on campus for the much ballyhooed matchup between the Rebels and the Tide. Now right now, the Rebels' 2015 recruiting class isn't big on numbers, but it is on quality. 4 of their 12 verbals are of the 4- and 5-star variety. The others are 3 stars, but they hope more of all celestial backgrounds come on board.
I never make too much of one game. I think the relationships win out in the end. However, if I had to pick a game that would matter nationally to us with kids that we're trying to recruit, it's no question that a win Saturday would go a long way.
All right, when the Rebels do take the field today, they won't have backup defensive back Anthony Alford. The sophomore left the program to play baseball full-time with the Toronto Blue Jays this week. Alford was drafted out of high school in the 3rd round of the 2012 draft with a $750,000 signing bonus. The club, when he got drafted, let him split time between football and baseball. Alford played 1 season at Southern Miss before transferring to the Rebels. And once again, I'm TJ Weary with WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi for Behind Enemy Lines. Enjoy the game and have a great day.
Thank you, TJ. A big recruiting weekend for Ole Miss. The Ole Miss defense is indeed impressive. Big, fast, athletic, and just all around nasty. That's got them near the top of the NCAA defensive statistics. They get after the quarterback, which has led to an SEC leading 9 interceptions, 2 of which have been taken back for touchdowns. So they're pretty good. Another interesting stat for the Rebs. Ole Miss is 4-0 for the first time since 1970, and a win today would put them at 5-0 for the first time since 1962. Wow. Not to be outdone, Alabama's defense, which started shaky in game 1 against West Virginia, has settled down and is playing very, very well. Today they face Bo Wallace, who at times has looked great, but also has had streaks of inconsistency. But it's the best version of Dr. Bo that Bama is getting ready for.
But Bo Wallace, we expect his best no matter what. I mean, he's a great player, definitely. Like you say, you don't know what kind of game you're going to get out of him. And for me, I mean, I expect his best no matter what. I mean, if he's playing like a freshman or he's playing like a 3-year starter, I expect his best no matter what.
Well, we took a look at Ole Miss in their defensive numbers. Bama getting a lot less hype this year, but really they're comparable. Alabama isn't far behind in any category. They'll be tested today, though, by some great wide receivers. Ole Miss really has a group led by Treadwell that go up and get the football. So Alabama's defense in for a stiff test today. Well, coming up, a look back at one of the greatest games in not just the Alabama-Ole Miss series, but in the history of college football. It's the 45th anniversary of that special game at Legion Field. Plus, what a day in the Magnolia State. One of those games is already underway. An update on the game in progress between Texas A&M and Mississippi State, and a look around the SEC. CTKO continues live from Tuscaloosa and from Oxford right after another timeout from our sponsors. Stay with us.
Welcome in to Scott on the Street. It's Ole Miss week. Ole Miss and Alabama, 2 undefeated teams, a top 10 matchup. Stakes couldn't be any higher. This guy right here, he's never lost to Ole Miss at Alabama. Let's hope that continues this weekend. We're about to go talk to our fans and get their thoughts and feelings on the Ole Miss Rebels. Let's go. Follow me. It's Ole Miss week. They've been talking a lot of trash. What do you kind of think of when you hear the phrase the Ole Miss Rebels?
I don't know. I mean, I know I shouldn't like them. I don't.
Overrated. I mean, they always think they're good when they end up, mediocre at the end of the year, every year.
I think of a bunch of rednecks that don't know what they're doing, on the football field especially.
The speed limit on Ole Miss's campus is 18 miles an hour.
Right.
And it's after a famous player that played for them. Do you have any idea who that might be?
Maybe Eli Manning?
Because they're slow? I don't know.
Eli Payton and God, I just what is his father's name? Archie Manning. That's it. Yeah.
Archie, my bad. Crap, I don't know. I didn't know that. Archie, dang it.
Scott on the street. You just never know where he's going to pop up and what he's going to be talking about, but very enjoyable feature. Our Scott Braswell with that feature every week here on CTKO. It's another reason we think we got a great show. We're glad that you're joining us. Well, it's a banner day in the Southeastern Conference. In addition to Alabama-Ole Miss, several other really big-time matchups, and one of them involves the other Mississippi school. The Bulldogs of Mississippi State are underway hosting Texas A&M, another battle of unbeatens. They go to the second quarter, just what we thought, a little bit of a shootout. Mississippi State up 14-7. The 12th-ranked Bulldogs lead the number 6 Aggies in that game. Josh Robinson, a couple of rushing touchdowns already for the Bulldogs. Kenny Hill's thrown for 90 yards and a touchdown for A&M as they go to the second quarter. A&M trying to move to 6-0 for the first time since 1994. Meanwhile, in Knoxville, Jeff Driscoll has already thrown an interception for the Gators. Man alive, he is struggling. You wonder when Florida's going to make a move at quarterback. Ball's got a field goal out of it. Tennessee leads the Gators 3-0 in the second quarter. Of course, Florida has dominated Tennessee in that series. Be a big win for Butch Jones today, and of course would be a tough loss for Will Muschamp if Tennessee wins that football game today at Neyland Stadium. Well, another huge contest in the SEC West is set for the Plains of Auburn tonight. The Tigers will host LSU at 6 p.m. A big story in this game is LSU's decision to go with freshman quarterback Brandon Harris. He was named the starter earlier this week ahead of Jennings by head coach Les Miles. And the coach tells us why he's comfortable going with the first-year player.
He took a missed snap, a bad snap, and scored. There's some ad lib to his game that's very, very positive, and he's a guy that really is fast and a guy that can really throw the ball. So you put him in a quality position to extend a play, some good things can happen.
He is extremely talented. I mean, he's got an NFL arm. He can throw the ball from one hash to the sidelines. And he can run. He's a dual threat guy, so he's a definite threat.
Again, that's a 6 o'clock kick at Auburn. Who would have ever thought that LSU, or I should say South Carolina, would beat Georgia but lose to A&M and Missouri? So they got a couple of losses. They travel to Lexington tonight to play Kentucky. If South Carolina has any thoughts about getting back in the SEC race, they must win tonight. Steve Spurrier understands the challenge awaits.
They don't look like some of their teams 10, 15 years ago. They are very fast, athletic. I think their defense is actually nationally ranked in most all categories. They're a good-looking team, and they play tough, smart, well-coached, and certainly be a big challenge.
Also in the SEC today, Vanderbilt will travel to take on Georgia 3 p.m. on the SEC Network. Arkansas has a week off. They get that bye before hosting Alabama next week in Fayetteville, so they will be ready to go next week coming off a bye. Well, we're nearing the end of this week's CTKO. When we come back, a look at one of the classic games in SEC football history. Plus, one last look at our game day forecast. We're coming back after this word from our sponsors. Stay with us. You're watching Crimson Tide Kickoff only on WVUA TV. Well, it served as the nation's introduction to primetime college football on television. October 4th, 1969, Ole Miss and Archie Manning taking on Alabama and Scott Hunter at Legion Field. What a game. Manning finished with 540 total yards and 5 touchdowns. It was a record for a long time in the SEC, but it wasn't enough. Scott Hunter had a 300-yard passing game of his own as Alabama won it where it mattered on the scoreboard, 33-32. What a game. And look at that scene right now. over in Oxford, Mississippi. The Grove is jumping. They're expecting 30,000 people on hand that don't even have tickets, that are just there to enjoy the festivities, including a number of celebrities. The countdown to kickoff is on, roughly 2.5 hours away from the Rebels and the Tide at Vaught Hemingway. And let's get one final look at the forecast for Oxford and for your tailgate if you're here in Tuscaloosa. To do that, we head back to Bryant-Denny Stadium and check in with Peter Crane. Peter?
Yes, we are looking at cool temperatures right now. We're in the upper 50s, lower 60s right now for the game down in Auburn. We're going to see temperatures this evening cooling off into the low 50s during the end of the game, into the upper 40s overnight for tonight. But Alabama-Ole Miss, the big game, 67.